And right now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to know more about gamification. All right, and we have someone really special to present this thing to us. We have the founder and the CEO of playbasis.com. He is also a gamification expert, Mr. Robert Zapeda, the former game developer turned entrepreneur. As I mentioned earlier, is the founder and chief executive officer of playbasis.com, a startup incorporated in Singapore with operations in Thailand and Malaysia. All right, now ladies and gentlemen, give a big round of applause to our gamification expert, Mr. Robert Zapeda. Please welcome.
So I'll start with an introduction. So my name is Robert Zapeda, and originally I come from California. I've been in game development for the past 10 years or so. This includes some time at some big game studios in the US, and as well as some local game studios here in the region. So I've had experience across developing game software for all sorts of devices, everything from traditional game consoles to the more modern Facebook and mobile gaming, as well as mobile gaming before the iPhone. So I have a pretty broad experience on how to build software experiences that engage audiences. And what I decided to do about a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years, was to apply these lessons about how to build engaging products, how to engage audiences, how to make experiences that are sticky, that audiences want to come back to and enjoy again and again. Let's take this knowledge and experience that I've gained and apply it to the business world. We've seen how businesses across all industries are now adopting software at a very rapid pace. But if you compare traditional business software to more gaming type software, there's a big difference in terms of the level of engagement and how fun and enjoyable it is to use these software types, these software solutions. So I decided let's take advantage of an emerging trend called gamification, where we extract some of the interesting things that people like about games and put it into our software products. So this is my team. We're located in Bangkok, Thailand. Most of the team is there. We're also exploring coming here to Malaysia and actually having a team here and potentially partnering with some local companies. I'm personally very bullish on Malaysia. I think it's a very interesting market, and as an entrepreneur, it's a place within the region that I would bet on. So our company, Playbasis, has about 12 staff or so. We've raised money from venture capitalists, some well-known ones in the US as well as regional. And so we're looking to kind of serve the gamification market for Asia. And it's our goal to be the leaders in gamification across Asia. And so early days, we're targeting Thailand, Singapore, and Malaysia, and then we would expand further out to cover the rest of Asia. The team is mixed with, has some mixed experience, everything from games to software consultants from Accenture, people with experience at Microsoft, people with experience at digital agencies. So we have a nice mix of talent, and we come together and we work really well to use all of our different skills and experiences to push forward this new innovative trend of gamification. So what we've done is we built, I'll just do a quick background on our company and then I'll go more into sort of overall gamification. But we built a platform, it's on the cloud, and what we can do through this platform is we can actually integrate gamification into existing software solutions. So this could be websites, mobile applications, even enterprise software. So on the end user side, the audience members, the employees or consumers, they get access to things like virtual points, badges, leaderboards, player profiles, these sorts of things. These are the things that we talk about when we say gamification. What we do is we integrate our technology into large corporations' websites and applications. So to give you an idea of some of the companies that we work with currently, We're working with one of the largest banks in Thailand. We work with one of the telcos in Thailand. We're working with the largest supermarket grocery store chain in Thailand, as well as some publishers, and we're starting to really expand our reach, and we're having some negotiations with a large bank in India at this time, property developers. So really the application of gamification can really cross all sorts of verticals. So what is gamification? What does it actually mean? What's the definition? A popular definition, this is the one that comes from Wikipedia, is it's the use of game thinking and game mechanics in non-game contexts to solve problems. Non-game means, what we're talking about with gamification, we're not building games, so to speak, but we're actually looking at software, we're looking at challenges within the business world through a game-like lens. So we're having a new perspective on how we tackle these problems. Rather than tackle them how we've done it in the past, let's tackle it almost as if it's a game. We're challenged to overcome these obstacles and provided rewards and feedback along the way to help increase the likelihood that you will actually solve these issues. So there's a whole laundry list of different game mechanics, things like lottery systems, we have random rewards, things like appointment gaming, whereby if you come and do some sort of activity at a certain hour in the day, you may have a bonus points or bonus rewards. There's things like collections, whereby you may want to do 4 or 5 things so that you can collect the reward along the way and complete the set. So we're tapping into a lot of these sort of innate human desires and applying those to, as we said, non-game contexts. In general, the easiest way to think about gamification and sort of the very basic way to think about it is basically what they call PBL, points, badges, and leaderboards. And so you're already seeing a lot of companies be very successful at engaging their workforce, their colleagues, and their customers simply by doing a smart job of layering on these points, badges, and leaderboards. So points are essentially like a score or a loyalty system. So you do this activity and you're scored or you're rewarded with a few points. This is drawn heavily from traditional loyalty systems. So in the airline world, where you're earning air miles, or in the grocery store chains where you have a loyalty card system, that's drawing from that. Badges are very much drawing from sort of Boy Scout days, Girl Scout, where you have different merit badges. These sort of symbolize the things that you've achieved. So you can imagine having a set of badges in your office, and you can actually display everything that you've achieved, any interesting achievements that you may have completed. And so those are sort of badges. And then leaderboards are essentially ranking systems or scorecards. So where do you rank among your colleagues, or where does your office rank among all of the offices in the country? So that's what we talk about points, badges, and leaderboards. So gamification as a trend is actually being widely adopted. Gartner has predicted that by 2015, 40% of businesses will be using gamification to drive innovation. And so as we know, innovation is a critical component to the success of any business going forward. We need to inspire new ideas. We're looking at things like crowdsourcing ideas, or having our employees give us feedback on how we can improve our business in any areas that we can tackle. And so gamification can really help with this. 45% of banks are either already investing in gamification or plan to invest in gamification. So this is a very, very big deal. Even the banking industry, financial services industry, they're looking at how can we use gamification to sort of engage the next generation of consumers. Right? You've got a whole generation, Gen Y, becoming banking customers for the first time. How do we attract them to our bank? How do we speak their language? So you're looking at traditional businesses that have been around for a long time, and sort of they're the ones that are actually really adopting gamification faster than others, because they need to radically update the way they engage so that they can catch up. Because you see social media and gaming and all these new trends with mobile is really outpacing the traditional business world. So you're actually seeing banks really double down on gamification. So there's some of the early adopters. By the end of this year, 70% of the Global 2000 will have at least one gamified application. So these are the 2,000 largest companies in the world. 70%, over 70% will have adopted gamification by the end of this year. So this is a very big trend. And this is probably the most interesting statistic that I've seen so far. This comes from the IEEE, which is sort of like a professional group of technologists and IT people. And essentially they predicted that by 2020, 85% of daily tasks will incorporate these game mechanics. So almost everything that we do, from waking up, setting our alarm, and maybe waking up on time, maybe we go into the bathroom, we jump on the scale, we clock in with our weight, maybe we take some public transportation to work, or we're being fuel efficient in the way we drive, so we're earning points for that. When we come into work, maybe we come into work a little bit early, we check in early, we get some points, we get some feedback for that. As we're collaborating in the work environment, we're also collecting points and unlocking different badges and these sorts of things. As we go shopping with our friends, we're earning points and rewards that we can spend in different marketplaces. So you can imagine a whole world sort of gamified. And with a computer, essentially, with our mobile phones on us at all times, it really opens up the possibilities of what gamification can be. So gamification is already being used to solve real world problems. And so, for an example, this is a city in Sweden, and this was sponsored by Volkswagen. What they called it was the speed camera lottery. So what they did here is they installed a camera where instead of capturing a photo of a speeder and giving them a ticket, as most cameras do, they also added another feature where you are rewarded for driving under the speed limits. And so what they would do was they would take all the tickets from the speeders, they would collect the money, and they would actually they would have a lottery system whereby people that were obeying the law had a chance to win some of that money that was collected from the speeders. And this was very effective for them. This reduced speed by 22%, and it was just simply adding just an extra mechanic to what was already sort of a negative reinforcement system, adding a positive reinforcement system so that you would get a thumbs up or thumbs down when you were driving, and this actually really drove behavior. And ultimately, that's what gamification is about. It's really about driving behavior and positive outcomes. So this was very effective. Another example, this also comes from the fun theory. This was also sponsored by Volkswagen. A real-world example, most people are taking the escalator to come up and down the stairs as they go in and out of the subway. What the fun theory group did was they set up a set of staircase where they overlaid a sound of a piano. And so as you walked up and down the staircase, there was the sound of a piano being played. And so what this did was this actually encouraged people to take the stairs more. So this was a more healthy activity. It reduced the congestion on the escalator. And 66% more people took the stairs after this experiment. Here's another example. This is called folding. This is a process called protein folding. And essentially what some scientists did was they built this game, they released it to the public, they sort of crowdsourced it, and they asked people to come up with different folding combinations of proteins. And when they did this, and they turned it into a game and had score and points, when they did this, they were actually able to, in 10 days, solve a very complex problem related to the HIV virus that had previously stumped scientists for 15 years. And the way they were able to solve this was they threw a lot of people at it, they crowdsourced it, they gamified it, and people just enjoyed spending some of their time to solve this problem. So it's almost like turning labor into a game. So they were able actually to take the productivity that's normally lost during gameplay and actually turn that into something that was a productive asset. So gaming as a way to produce some sort of result rather than just to sap our time and attention. So this is a very interesting trend. Another example, this is a company called Waze, and Waze was acquired by Google for $1 billion. And what they do is they have, everyone has their phone when they're driving. So what they do is they ask you to turn on this application while you're driving. And what we'll do is with everyone's phones being on and turn with this application on, we'll be able to get some real-time traffic data. So how fast you're moving, if there's any traffic jams, if there's a fire or some issue on the road, you can actually tap the application and notify everyone else. What happens is you're actually getting rewarded for keeping this application open and for contributing. So again, crowdsourcing it, turning some otherwise work, or so to speak labor, into something more fun and rewarding. And now Google has integrated the Waze technology into its mapping technology after buying Waze for $1 billion. Foursquare, I'm pretty sure many people are aware of. So Foursquare wanted to be the location layer for the world and have all the data about all the different venues all over the world. The way they could ask people to contribute their information was by giving them the points and badges, so incentivizing the behavior that you're trying to drive. And so they were very successful, and they're still a very strong company to this day. And another example is Fitbit. Fitbit is an activity monitor and an application. So you put on this sensor, and it actually tracks the number of steps that you're taking, as well as it can track your sleep. And what it does is it rewards you for walking further distances than you normally do. So it's trying to encourage healthy behavior. So this is another example of real-world problems being addressed with gamification. So I'll go into a little bit here quickly on some of the science and why this gamification and really why gaming works to drive behavior. So this is a model called the Fogg model. This is presented by Dr. B.J. Fogg from Stanford University. And essentially what he says is that if you want to drive a behavior, you have to have a mix of ability and motivation. So if I have the ability to do something, but I don't have any motivation, it's very difficult for me to do that behavior. For instance, if I wanted to maybe walk an extra 1 kilometer every day, I definitely have the ability to do that, but if I'm not that motivated to do it, I won't do it. So the key here is to have a trigger. So to have some sort of messaging or some sort of trigger that actually inspires me to take that action. So it's an incentive or it's a feedback mechanism. So this is a very interesting model, and this is really starting to understand why games really work to drive behavior. Why people play Flappy Birds, Angry Birds for hours and hours every day. How can they be so addicted and so engaged with a product that has no impact in their real life? So how can we take some of those lessons and apply it to some positive problems? So these are things called feedback systems. So the things that games are really good at is that they give you feedback. So you click a button, there's points, something flashes on the screen. You always know where you're at. There's feedback, it's very, very quick. It's a very fast feedback cycle. This is in contrast to our daily lives, where at work we don't get that real-time feedback, right? We may get a yearly review or a quarterly update, right? In school also, the feedback systems are not as real-time. We get a report card at the end of every semester, but it's not really, you don't really know how you're doing on a day-by-day basis in real time compared to your colleagues or your fellow students. So it's really about shortening those feedback loops. So having a lot of short-term goals that lead to medium-term goals that help you reach long-term goals. So one of the things that's really hard to get people to do is to stay focused on a long-term goal. Right? Every New Year's we have a resolution. Hello. Yeah, so every New Year we make a resolution. We want to make some positive change in our life, and it's very difficult to stick with that. But if you can break down those goals into shorter term goals, and you can provide more real-time feedback, you have a better chance of actually completing those things. So this gets into a little bit more on the science and the psychology behind games, and this is the stuff that we use when we actually implement our gamification services for our clients. But these are things like reinforcement and reward schedules. So there are some cases where you want to have a very consistent feedback or consistent reward. I do this, I get this. But there are some cases where you may want to mix that up a little bit, because if you kept at that pace, it would maybe get very boring after a while. So you add some elements of chance. And so what we're doing, and we're looking at this thing, this is called reward schedules and reinforcement. And we're seeing how we can apply these sort of psychological hooks and keys into gaming experiences. And ultimately, the other thing that games do really well is if you've ever seen someone like really engulfed in a game where they're totally focused on it. You know, sometimes people sit there and they play a game for so long they forget to eat, they don't care about anything else around them. They're in what we call the state of flow. And what the state of flow is really trying to get you to do is to be so lost in what you're doing that the rest of the world sort of disappears. And you're so focused on your activity that you're doing. And games are really good at doing this. Another example of this is when you see a great musician, right? He's closing his eyes, he's playing the music. He's totally lost in what he's doing. And games also do this, where we're totally focused on the game. The rest of the world really is not distracting us in any way. And so this is what we call the flow model, and this is what we try to use in games. And this is what we try to also use in gamification, to get people so involved in the activity that they're doing and keep them engaged for as long as possible that time is simply disappears. Just really quickly, there's a study that's done by Cisco that if you add activities to content consumption, so adding activities to simply reading, let's say you're reading some documents online, but if you add activities to that reading activity, to reading, you would actually read more. So it's actually what it's saying is basically, if you can make some of these more passive activities more engaging, people will actually do more of it. So it's really getting back to just increasing the engagement level of our work, of our lives, can actually get us to do more interesting things. And so this is what I mean by when we talk about play basis, and what we do and some of the other gamification professionals do is that we really try to break all these different models down and create an architecture that we can implement for our clients. A couple other things to think about when you're designing gamification within your organization is there are different player types, right? So just like as we remember from the marketing days or user experience days, we have personas. So different use cases. We also have these things called player types. So not all players are the same. Some people are very competitive, they want to win. Others are more social, they'd rather share and work together with people. Some people really like to explore the environment or explore the possibilities. They're not so focused on getting from point A to B, but they really just enjoy the experience itself. And so we're thinking about how we can design experiences that speak to all these different player types, right? Because the worst thing you want to do is create a game that's very competitive when it should be in fact more collaborative and vice versa. So I'll actually show you some gamification techniques that you may not have even realized are happening, but you probably use it every day in social media. So for instance, with Dropbox, right, a lot of us are using this in the workplace these days to sync our files. What Dropbox does is it actually rewards you with extra storage when you invite your friends. And do you see this rocket going over to the moon there? That's actually a progress bar. And progress bar is one technique that we use in gaming and gamification. This is another example of a progress bar. It's more straightforward. But simply by adding this progress bar, this game mechanic, this sort of 90% complete, this is actually driving more people to fill out their profiles, to enter more data into the system. so, Google is using this for its Google Plus. LinkedIn is using it for its profile updates. So if any of us are on LinkedIn, we probably have seen this before. And we know that when it's sort of halfway full, we want to kind of complete it. We want to actually put more information into the system so that we can reach. You see my rank here is all-star. So that's a gamification technique that even LinkedIn is using. And of course on Facebook as well. So Facebook will ask you to tell them what books do you read, and we'll actually create these mini challenges for you to do. So these are sort of arbitrary little games where they're trying to get you to click on some things by using the progress mechanic. So gamification in the workplace. So the interesting statistic is that the average age of a gamer today is 30 years old. They've been playing for 12 years. They're essentially experts. So the majority of and as well as 50% of gamers are female. So it's not just something as, in the tradition, as we used to have the stereotype of gamers being these teenage boys. It's actually pretty much everyone these days. People may not even consider themselves gamers, but you may see them playing online and mobile games and these sorts of things. Those are games. Now, so the interesting thing though is that people are not engaged at work. So this poll by Gallup says that 70% of the working population, at least in the US, is either not engaged at work, or worse, they're actively disengaged. So they're just totally ignoring what's happening at work. They're sort of clocking out and just collecting a paycheck. So this is a huge problem. Interesting is that by 2025, the millennials will comprise the majority of the workforce. So these are the Gen Ys. So these are the people that have grown up playing games, grown up on the internet. So as employers, as people involved in the enterprise, we have to make sure that we're setting our company up for the rise of these millennials and making sure we have systems and process and software in place that these millennials will really respond well to. So this was a study done a couple of years ago where it said 55% of Americans would actually be interested in working for a company that used gamification. And I think now that statistic may actually be even higher. I think the key with gamification, if you're trying to leverage it within your organization, is the first thing you want to do is you want to identify the outcomes. So what is the end result that you want to achieve with gamification? You can identify that as being, we want to have more people come to work earlier or on time, or we want to have more people sharing within the organization, or we want to generate more ideas from our staff. So once you have that outcome, then you need to look at what's the demographic, who's the audience, who are we designing the game for? So this is where you look into audience demographics. Then, once you have those two things, you can start implementing the game mechanics. Those are the things that I was talking about with points and badges and leaderboards and all those different mechanics. So you can integrate, you can do that on paper, but if you'd like, you can even integrate that directly into the software that you're using every day at work. And of course, you should monitor and manage that over time. So good games constantly update themselves over time so they don't get boring. And that's the other thing you should do with gamification is you should add new rules and new challenges to the environment. So what does a gamified workplace look like? Well, maybe Jenny reaches a level 5 service rep, right, at work. Maybe Mike hit his sales target 6 days early and unlocks the sales target badge. Maybe Ploy unlocks the shopaholic badge because maybe she's a consumer and she's using the e-commerce websites. And maybe Adam, he's a seller in the e-commerce environment, so he reaches level 3 power seller. And Varsha has become a trusted reviewer because she leaves a lot of positive reviews, or she leaves a lot of reviews that people vote as being very trustworthy. And maybe Sarah's web design was approved by the client, and she unlocks the badge there. So it's just a fun, interesting way to make the workplace a little bit more interesting and engaging. Here's a very interesting quote. It says, a lot of technologies start in other industries and slip their way into gaming, which makes sense for the future of businesses. Tom Coughlin of IEEE, Senior Member of Technology Consulting. By 2020, however many points you have at work will help determine the kind of raise you get or which office you sit in. Outside factors will still be important, but those that can be quantified numerically will increasingly be tracked as game points. So it's kind of like adding a score to your daily life or your work life. And here's some badges that are designed for the workplace. So you have things like collaboration badges, merit badges, conference badges, learning badges, different meetings, speaker badges. So there's definitely people that are already looking at having these concepts integrated to the enterprise. So these are some technologies that you may be using already that actually have gamification components as add-on widgets. So here we have Microsoft SharePoint, IBM Connections. They actually allow you to plug in gamification. And these are really great for collaboration. So you can actually inspire and increase collaboration within the workplace by adding the gamification, adding those points and badges and leaderboards. Another example is if you're running a sales team, right? This is a very cool leaderboard for sales teams. And sales teams are naturally kind of competitive. And what this company has done is it actually transforms your Salesforce.com into an ESPN-like dashboard, whereby if you complete sales, you'll get a big full screen alert, and it will look like a new news update. It really engages people. It really makes the sales process much more fun. How about gamification for call centers? So responding to consumers' requests or problems, complaints, and closing these tickets in a timely manner, and providing good quality service. Gamification for call centers. And how about for health and wellness? So if you have a health and wellness program within your organization, maybe you can think about gamifying that and giving people points and badges and these sorts of things for being healthier, for maybe going to the gym and doing these sorts of things. Why? This can actually reduce your insurance costs and your benefit costs because your employees are healthier, they're not sick, so they're at work more, and they're just generally living happier, healthier lives. So there's a lot of use cases for gamification. As we mentioned, training, feedback and innovation, health and wellness, even gamification for events and conferences. There's a lot of use cases for it, but I think that's all the time I have. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to email me or meet with me here, and thank you. Yeah, so if anyone has questions, I'm happy to take those now. Anything at all? Don't be shy. Okay, well, I would say that if you're also interested in some case studies, you can email me and I can send you some of that stuff. I can show you what we've done for TMB Bank, Thai Military Bank in Thailand. I can show you what we've done for a true big telco there. I can show you what we're doing with some of our other clients or case studies. If you also need any statistics or anything like that, just email me. I've got a lot of resources. We're still looking for our first potential partner in Malaysia. So if anyone wants to be sort of one of the first companies in Malaysia to adopt gamification, please definitely come talk to me. But if there's no questions, we have one.
There's a microphone. David?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm more interested with your learning development for call center. Do you have off-the-shelf or do you customize, the program for call center?
Yeah, the question was gamification for call centers, and what are some of the products available for that? There are definitely some competitor products out there. I guess I use the word competitor loosely because they may be in other regions or other markets. What we're doing in this stage, because we're still kind of early, we're doing a lot of custom development for companies. So in the case with TMB Bank, not only did we add gamification, but we also built them a full website and a full mobile app for iOS and Android. So gamification for call centers, there's off-the-shelf tools, but we're also very happy to build a custom solution for you that solves directly your business need. it's very interesting. I was actually giving a talk in Bangalore in this past December, and IBM was showing some of the stuff they were doing internally with gamification for their employees. So what they've actually done is they've actually created sort of an employee score, and every employee has this score, 87, 96, whatever it is. And what it does is it taps into all the activities that you do every day at work, emails and answering support tickets and product reviews and call center stuff, all those different things, and adds it to it makes a score. And so you can do with these scores is you can give managers a very easy dashboard to view their whole staff and the different scores. So it makes performance reviews much easier to do because these scores can be actually updated automatically by using the software. And the manager can also define the rules. So just as you define the business rules, you can define your own game rules. So you can say that for me, for my business, coming to work early is worth 100 points because I really want to drive that. And submitting papers or even collaborating and those sorts of things are worth 20, 30 points. But maybe this month I really want to drive coming to work early, so I'm going to increase points that month for that activity. And what you'll see is a natural spike in engagement for that activity. But the way you can drive those different behaviors is you have to be able to surface and show your employees that their actions are being sort of received and appreciated. And so once they see that, they'll do it more. But if they don't really have that feedback mechanism, it's very difficult for them to know how are they doing. Is this a high-value activity, a high-value behavior? How am I doing? So it's really important thing, I think, is providing that feedback system and then having the business rules which you can define. These are the behaviors that you really want to drive, and naturally people will actually tend to move towards those high-value behaviors. So I think it can make managers' lives a lot easier because you can have sort of a score on top of your employees. And as well as you can give people things like, so for rewards, right? If people are always coming to work on time, they have a very high score, what if they could unlock, as a reward, half day off? Or maybe a lunch with the boss? Or maybe an extra vacation day? Or maybe they could get, brought to T-Circle and actually take some training courses, right? They could advance their own career because they've showed the initiative, they showed that they want this, they're working hard for you, and they can be rewarded. So these rewards are actually not really costs. You're actually getting increased productivity and you're reducing some of your churn, right? Because as they build their profile and they start building their score, they're not going to want to leave the company because then they have to basically start over. They have to start from zero again. So as long as they're happy within your organization, they start building their profile and they start ranking up and up and up and up, and they become very loyal to the business. So you can reduce your employee churn rate, you can improve their satisfaction, and you can offer some nice rewards for them to make them more engaged at work.
What kind of structure, internal structure that we require to have this engagement, software, hardware?
Yeah, so the question was like, how does this kind of get deployed into the organization, and what does the arrangement look like, the engagement? Typically what we do as Playbases is we have some strategy and consultants who will meet with you, discuss your business needs, think about the different mechanics we can do, and sort of flesh it out on paper first. Then maybe we talk a little bit about how the logistics of the deployment is going to look like. So if it's a cloud-based deployment, which we're very good at, we can do that via the cloud. If it's an on-premise deployment, we're also open to exploring that. But we partner with Amazon Web Services. They're a very close partner with us. They promote us. They really like the architecture that we built. So we do try to go for a cloud deployment, but we do recognize that there are some instances where organizations have firewalls and security concerns. So we're very sensitive to that. As well as the data that we collect is very minimal. So we don't collect any personal data about your employees, any credit card numbers. We just collect the game points. So it's very safe, and we definitely respect the privacy, those sorts of things.
I have a question. Yeah, I think the concept of gamification sits well in societies that are more individualistic. Yeah? And I know that you have worked in Thailand, and I was just wondering whether, how do you combine, this concept and your design principles in a culture which is more group, because, in Asian societies, the one that sticks out will be hammered down, right? Whereas I think in the American perspective, you have to be the unique self. So I think we have to be very careful about focusing too much on the individual at the expense of teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And I think that's also what we're strong at, is that because we're located here, we have staff of Malaysians and Thais. And I've been in Thailand for 4 years, and I can speak the language, I've studied it. I'm also very interested in Malaysia as well. I'd love to spend more time here. But we do recognize that there are different cultural aspects, different play styles for different cultures. And as you were mentioning, sometimes you don't want to actually stick out that very much. So what you could do is you could have a team score, to whereby your points are actually being reflected among your team. You can do things where it's not so competitive, where I'm a winner and you're a loser, but in fact we're more of a collaboration. There's also things around national holidays that you can do, so you can do a lot of cool things with, so Thai New Year's coming up, so there's a lot of interesting things you can do around some of the Thai holidays to create interesting games and different campaign ideas. So I think we definitely respect the cultural aspects, and I think that's something that we really want to be strong on in our deployments here versus our competitors maybe in the US. They don't quite realize that, but I think that's a great point. Thank you. But I would just actually mention, one more thing, is that Forrester Research has said that they've done the research across the world, basically on gamification. What they came back to say was that Asia and Southeast Asia could potentially be the most powerful region for gamification, because the culture here is very into games, they love fun, right? In Thailand, they actually ask you, they don't ask you if you use Facebook or use Twitter, they ask you, lend Facebook money, which means, do you play Facebook? Do you play Twitter? Do you play these chat things? So they're a very playful culture. And so I think, gamification in Asia has probably the best potential anywhere in the world, and we're just getting started with it here. So we'd love to sort of define what gamification for Asia means with some of you here. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just concerned about gamification on the healthy and wellness, which is the matter adding on that. As you know, in Malaysia, we have a different ethnic group, or some, races, that kind of thing. So how this gamification can fit into, the organization in terms of different races, that kind of thing,
That's very interesting. I'll actually, I don't know if I have a whole lot to say on that, because, I'm actually don't have that much experience with it, but that's something, again, that we'd love to kind of understand what that means for Malaysia. And so as we kind of, come out here a little bit more and look for partnerships and deployments, it's really going to be important for us to work with people such as the people in this room to really understand how can we really effectively use gamification. What does gamification for employees, for HR look like for Malaysia? So sort of the ethnic concerns and some of those sorts of things, I still do need to learn more about that. But we do have a Malaysian on our team as well. So he can definitely be very beneficial to helping us understand what that means. But I think if you look at our team, we're a very diverse group. We have Europeans, Americans, Hispanics, Chinese, Thais, Malaysians, pretty much everything. We're very diverse, but definitely I think there are very specific things, sensitive things within each country that we definitely want to make sure we're aware of. So I would definitely like to research that a little bit more.
Rob, do you have a top-level audit or checklist of a company
we definitely do. As I mentioned, some of our team members come from companies like Accenture, and and some of my investors come from the management world, so places like Deloitte and these sorts of things. So we definitely have those materials, those documents. And so as an enterprise level gamification company, we take all that very seriously. So security concerns, data, privacy, all of those things. So that's what I think separates us from some of the smaller players, is that we definitely want to be sort of an enterprise level partner.
My name is Zachary. You have been emphasizing on gamification and modification of behavior. So I'm a trainer. I'm more interested in gamification in terms of thinking, body language, leadership, that kind of thing. Do you provide that kind of service?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I understand the question, is as a trainer, you're looking for gamification solutions around sort of language learning and this kind of thing? Yeah, this is a great question. So the Apple's 2013 App of the Year is a gamified language learning app called Duolingo, D-U-O-Lingo. And essentially what this means is that education, training is completely ripe for gamification. We're just scratching the surface. We don't have anything necessarily out of the box other than we have an employee onboarding process. So if there's a set of training materials and a quiz afterwards. So we want to make sure new employees come on board and they need to read some of the base materials and then have a small quiz afterwards. We have that as a module that we've built for our banking clients, but we don't have necessarily anything out of the box. So right now what we're really interested in doing is building custom solutions that really solve your need so that we do a great job for you. Because ultimately for us, is we don't want to just be a factory, we want to make sure our customers are as successful as possible. Because if our customers are successful, we'll be successful. So we're very open to collaborating and doing very custom solutions just for you and your particular business. I think that's it, but thank you, and if there's any other questions, I'll be around. So thank you guys.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call upon to the stage Mr. SK to represent T-Circle to give a token of appreciation to our wonderful speaker today, Mr. Robert Zapeda. Mr. Robert Zapeda, please come to the stage to receive your token of appreciation from our Mr. SK from T-Circle. Once again, thank you very much to Mr. Robert Zapeda. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to Mr. SK. Okay, it's time for us, ladies and gentlemen, for you to be invited to have some light refreshments, alright, for only 15 minutes. Tea break this time around, and we expect to see you in 15 minutes. That means 11:50, right? Yeah. We'll see you again in this particular room at 11:15 a.m. Okay? Have a good session of refreshments. We'll see you. Thank you.